Imagine a great and unrelenting storm, a tempest of external chaos, of unpredictable events, of the often harsh judgments and actions of other people. In the heart of this storm stands a man. He is not untouched by the wind and the rain. He feels their force, he acknowledges their presence, but he is completely, utterly unmoved by them. His feet are planted firmly on the bedrock of his own reason. His gaze is steady, and his spirit is profoundly tranquil. The chaos of the world may crash against the walls of his being, but it cannot penetrate his core. This is not a man devoid of feeling, nor is he a man of supernatural power. He is a man who has undertaken the difficult but noble work of building an unshakable fortress within himself, an inner citadel of reason and peace that no external event, no matter how catastrophic, can ever truly conquer. Now imagine another man caught in the very same storm. He is a leaf in the wind, tossed about by every gust of misfortune, every stray opinion, every unexpected turn of events. His happiness soars with a moment of praise and plummets with a word of criticism. His peace is shattered by a minor inconvenience from a stranger. He lives in a constant state of reaction, his emotional well-being held hostage by the unpredictable and often cruel whims of the world outside himself. He spends his entire life trying desperately and fruitlessly to control the storm, to command the winds and the rain, never realizing that the only thing he ever needed to control was his own response to them. He is, in a word, a slave to the external. Which of these two men are you? And more importantly, which do you truly wish to be? The ancient Stoics, those master architects of the human soul, provided a practical and profound blueprint for building that inner citadel. They were not philosophers of the ivory tower living in detached contemplation. They were generals on the battlefield, statesmen navigating the treacherous politics of Rome. Former slaves who had endured the worst of human cruelty, and powerful emperors who ruled over a world of chaos, plague, and constant warfare. Their philosophy was not a set of abstract, comforting theories. It was a training system, a rigorous daily practice for forging an unshakable character. This exploration is a deep dive into that very system. It is not a guide to changing the world around you, but to revolutionizing the world within you so that you may face any storm, any insult, any loss, not with fear and anxiety, but with a quiet and unconquerable strength. This is the art of forging an unshakable soul. The first and most foundational principle, the very bedrock upon which the entire Stoic citadel is built, is the dichotomy of control. This is the simple yet life-altering understanding that some things in our lives are within our control and some things are not. To live a life of wisdom, purpose, and tranquility, the Stoics argued one must learn to distinguish between these two categories with absolute clarity and then dedicate 100% of their energy to the former while learning to accept the latter with a calm and rational indifference. What then is within our control? The Stoics identified only a very small but incredibly powerful list of things: our own thoughts, our judgments, our intentions, our desires, and our actions. In short, our inner world, and what is not within our control, everything else: the past, the future, the weather, the economy, our health, our reputation, and most critically for our daily peace, the actions and opinions of other people. We cause ourselves immense and unnecessary suffering by constantly trying to control the uncontrollable. We become anxious about what the future might hold. We are consumed by regret over things that have happened in the past. We are enraged when someone treats us unfairly. We are desperate for the approval of people who may not even like us. We are in essence trying to command the wind and the rain, and then we are surprised and frustrated when they do not obey. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and rose to become one of the most respected teachers in the Roman Empire, taught this principle with a stark and beautiful simplicity. He said, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself, which are externals, not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. A happy and serene life is only possible when we learn to focus all of our precious time and energy on the things we can control, our own character and our own responses, and to accept with a calm equanimity the things that we cannot. Imagine an archer preparing for a competition. She can control the quality of her bow and her arrows. She can control her posture, her breathing, her focus, and the precise moment of the arrow's release. These things are within her power, and she should dedicate herself to mastering them through diligent practice. But the moment the arrow leaves the bow, it is no longer under her control. A sudden gust of wind may blow it off course. The target might be flawed. An opponent might shoot a better shot. A wise archer understands this. She does her absolute best with what is in her power, the aiming and the release, and she accepts the outcome, whatever it may be, with grace and composure. She does not rage at the wind. She does not curse the target. She simply pulls another arrow from her quiver and focuses again on what she can control, her next shot. This is the Stoic mindset. We must learn to be like the archer, focusing with laser-like intensity on our own actions and our own intentions, while accepting the external outcomes with a peaceful detachment. This principle is not about passivity. It is not about giving up on our goals. It is about a strategic and intelligent application of our most limited resource, our energy. When you stop wasting your energy on trying to change the things you cannot change, you will have an incredible surplus of energy to dedicate to the things you can. You can dedicate it to becoming a better person, a more disciplined professional, a more compassionate friend. You can dedicate it to the noble work of building your own unshakable inner character. This is the first and most liberating step on the path to Stoic freedom. You must conduct a ruthless inventory of your life. Make a list of all the things that cause you stress, anxiety, and emotional pain. And for each one, ask yourself the simple, honest question: is this truly within my control, or is it not? If it is not, then you must begin the difficult but necessary practice of letting it go. It is not your circus, and they are not your monkeys. Your circus, the only one you are responsible for, is the one that takes place between your own two ears. Once you have grasped the foundational principle of what you can and cannot control, you can move on to the second discipline: building the walls of your inner citadel through the mastery of your own perception. The Stoics taught that it is not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about those events. The world is in and of itself neutral. It is our interpretation, our story, our judgment about what happens that assigns it a quality of good or bad. A stressful event like losing a job is not inherently a catastrophe. It is our judgment, "This is a disaster, my life is over," that creates the suffering. Another person might look at the very same event and judge it differently. This is a challenging but exciting opportunity to find a new path. The event is the same. The judgment is what creates the reality. This is where so much of our daily emotional turmoil comes from. Someone interrupts you in a meeting. The event itself is neutral sound waves entered the room while you were producing your own sound waves. But your judgment, "He disrespected me. He thinks I'm unimportant," is what creates the feeling of anger and humiliation. A Stoic learns to practice what is known as cognitive distancing. This is the ability to observe their own thoughts and judgments from a distance without immediately identifying with them. When a provocative event happens and that first hot thought of anger or fear arises, the Stoic in training does not immediately accept it as truth. They pause. They take a step back mentally and they examine the thought as if it were an object. They ask themselves, is this judgment true? Is it helpful? Is there another more rational way to look at this situation? Let's imagine that two men both working at the same company are unexpectedly laid off. The first man, who is not trained in this discipline, immediately succumbs to his initial judgments. This is a catastrophe, he thinks. I'll never find another job. My family will be ruined. My life is over. These catastrophic judgments produce feelings of panic, of despair, of hopelessness. He is a victim of the event because he is a prisoner of his own perception. The second man, who has been practicing the Stoic discipline of perception, experiences the same event, but his response is radically different. He feels the initial sting of disappointment, of course, but he does not immediately assent to the judgment that this is a catastrophe. Instead, he observes his initial thoughts and begins to question them. Okay, he says to himself, I have lost my job. That is a fact. But is it a catastrophe? Or is it simply a change in my circumstances? Is it possible that this is an opportunity? I have been unhappy in this role for years. Perhaps this is the push I needed to finally start the business I have always dreamed of, or to find a career that is more aligned with my values. By consciously choosing a different judgment, he completely transforms his emotional reality. The event has not changed, but his experience of it has. He is not a victim. He is an actor, ready to respond to his new circumstances with courage and creativity. This is not a matter of naive, positive thinking. It is a matter of rational, rigorous self-examination. It is about understanding that our emotions do not come from the outside world. They come from the stories we tell ourselves about the outside world. And we have absolute power over those stories. You must become the vigilant guard of your own mind. When a negative or unhelpful thought arises, you must challenge it. Ask yourself, is this impression based on facts or on my own fearful interpretation? Does this judgment serve me or does it harm me? By practicing this discipline of perception, you begin to build the very walls of your inner citadel, a fortress of reason that can protect you from the emotional storms of life. Now that you have laid the foundation of your fortress by understanding what you can control, and you have built its walls by mastering your own perception, you must learn the third discipline, guarding the gates through the mastery of your own actions. How we choose to act in the world, how we interact with others, and how we respond to the challenges we face. These are the moments where our character is truly tested and revealed. A Stoic life is not one of passive contemplation. It is one of virtuous, purposeful action. The Stoics taught that all of our actions should be guided by the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, the ability to see the world clearly and to make sound judgments; courage, the ability to face fear and to do what is right even when it is difficult; justice, the commitment to treating others with fairness, with kindness, and with respect; and temperance, the practice of self-control and moderation in all things. This framework provides a powerful compass for navigating our daily interactions, especially with difficult or toxic people. When someone disrespects you, for example, the typical unthinking reaction might be to respond with anger, a failure of temperance, or with fear, a failure of courage. But a man guided by Stoic principles will choose a different path. He will use wisdom to see the situation for what it is, an expression of the other person's own ignorance or insecurity. He will use courage to stand his ground, not by escalating the conflict, but by remaining calm and composed. He will use temperance to control his own emotional response, refusing to be baited into their drama. And he will use justice by treating the other person not with contempt, but with a kind of detached pity, understanding that their behavior stems from their own inner turmoil. This is where the practical strategies we have discussed before come into play. The Eliant stare, for example, is a perfect act of Stoic engagement. It requires the courage to hold the silence, the temperance to not react with anger, and the wisdom to know that it is a more effective response than a verbal assault. Setting firm boundaries is another crucial aspect of the discipline of action. It is an act of justice both to yourself by protecting your own well-being and to the other person by clearly communicating what is and is not acceptable behavior. Knowing when to walk away from a toxic situation is perhaps the ultimate act of Stoic courage. It is the recognition that you cannot control the other person's behavior and the wise decision to control your own situation by removing yourself from it. It is about protecting your inner citadel by strategically retreating from a battle that is not worth fighting. A crucial part of this discipline is understanding that our actions should be focused on our own duties and on the development of our own character, not on trying to manipulate a particular outcome or to control another person's reaction. A Stoic does the right thing simply because it is the right thing to do, not because they are hoping for a specific reward or for the approval of others. This is a profound shift in mindset. Most of us are constantly acting with an eye toward the result. We work hard because we want the promotion. We are kind to someone because we want them to like us. But a Stoic understands that the outcome is an external something that is not within their control. The only thing that is truly within their control is their own action in this present moment. And so they focus all of their energy on making that action as virtuous as possible. By doing so, they liberate themselves from the anxiety of the future and the need for external validation. They find a deep and abiding sense of peace in the knowledge that they are acting in accordance with their own highest principles, regardless of the outcome. Finally, having secured the foundation, the walls and the gates of our fortress, we must turn to the final and most important discipline, tending to the inner kingdom through the mastery of our own will. This is about the internal world of our desires, our fears, and our emotions. A Stoic does not seek to suppress their emotions as is often mistakenly believed. That is impossible and unhealthy. Instead, they seek to understand them. They recognize that our emotions are for the most part the product of our own judgments. Fear is the judgment that something bad might happen in the future. Anger is the judgment that an injustice has been done to us. A Stoic learns to observe these emotional responses as they arise, to question the judgments that are causing them, and to respond with reason rather than with raw, unthinking passion. This is the path to true emotional freedom. It is the understanding that while you may not be able to stop the initial feeling of anger from arising when someone insults you, you have absolute power over whether or not you choose to act on that anger. You can choose to let it go. You can choose to respond with a calm and rational mind. This is the essence of building emotional resilience. It is not about never feeling pain or fear. It is about not being controlled by them. This inner work also involves a conscious cultivation of self-sufficiency. The Stoic man builds a life that is so rich in purpose, in meaningful work, and in virtuous relationships that he does not need the approval or the presence of any one person to feel whole. His happiness is self-generated. It comes from the satisfaction of a day well lived, from the pursuit of his own growth, and from the knowledge that he is living in accordance with his own values. This is why a man of Stoic character is so naturally attractive. He is not needy. He is not desperate. He is a self-contained source of strength and stability. He is a fountain, not a drain. He engages with the world not out of a sense of lack, but out of a sense of fullness. And perhaps the most advanced practice in this inner work is the Stoic concept of amor fati, or the love of one's fate. This is the ability to not just accept, but to embrace everything that happens in our lives, the good and the bad, as if we had chosen it ourselves. It is the understanding that even our greatest hardships, our most painful losses, can be used as fuel for our growth. As the philosopher Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by the Stoics, would later say, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." A Stoic finds their why in the relentless pursuit of virtue, of wisdom, and of a life lived in accordance with nature. And with that powerful sense of purpose, they can face any how that life throws at them, not with resentment, but with a courageous and even joyful acceptance. This is the ultimate goal of the Stoic path, to build an inner kingdom so strong, so peaceful, and so well-ordered that you can welcome any fate, any challenge, any storm, with the calm and unshakable confidence of an emperor of your own soul. In the end, the journey of Stoicism is not about achieving a destination of perfection. It is about engaging in a lifelong practice of self-mastery. It is about understanding that you cannot control the world, but you can achieve a profound and liberating control over yourself by mastering the disciplines of control, of perception, of action, and of will. You are not just learning to deal with toxic people or to handle difficult situations. You are learning the very art of living itself. You are building a character so strong, a mind so clear, and a spirit so tranquil that the respect and admiration of others will follow, not because you have chased it, but because you have commanded it simply by becoming the person you were always meant to be. This is not a quick fix. It is the hard, noble work of a lifetime. But it is a work that promises the greatest possible reward, a life of meaning, of purpose, and of true unshakable freedom. The work begins now.